the major focus of the recent coverage of the war has been in Iraq. Afghanistan has been put on the back burner a little bit, and we'll get to that shortly. But now we know there's been troop withdrawals out of the country, out of the major cities in the country, and we had told you earlier that they were going to the outer skirts of the city. And where do you foresee that going as far as the troops withdrawing, and what is the conflict still going on today in Iraq?
Well, what you're seeing in Iraq right now are basically sectarian violence. You're seeing the violence taking place between the major sects of the Muslim religion. There's Sunni, Shia, and Kurds, and they're fighting between each other. And so you have that going on in the midst of things, and the government's trying to kind of curtail that a little bit. The major issue with Iraq, though, is trying to figure out whether or not the government in Iraq can sustain itself once our troops are gone. That's the major question. Are they going to be able to be stable? Are they going to be able to have a head of state who can, get things moving in that country without the fear of a group coming in and, showing angst or expressing angst towards the government in place? That's the major issue here. When we pull out, is it going to be like a house of cards and fall apart? We have to wait and see. But personally, I believe that the sectarian violence is causing a lot of issues in Iraq. Vice President Joe Biden just visited Iraq yesterday to speak out against sectarian violence and try to get that under control, because it's not helping the situation. Once we're gone, we're gone. And so the Iraq police, the Iraq military are going to have to be able to step in to fight out against these groups that are causing political unrest and instability in their country.
Okay, and so now we're going to move to Afghanistan, which has been dubbed kind of the forgotten war. It's the thing that the mainstream media has not been focusing on as much so as when it first started, and there obviously still is a reason for us being there. And in fact, the last word I heard, if I'm not mistaken, was that there was actually an increase in level of troops in Afghanistan. So just kind of share with us and our viewers, why is Afghanistan still important, and where do you kind of see that going? What's going on in that area of the Middle East?
Well, we have to remember Afghanistan is extremely important. That's where this all began. We're fighting against the Taliban. We're fighting against those forces that caused 9/11. Iraq is separate from that, to be quite frank. And so we have to keep Afghanistan in mind. If we're really talking about fighting terrorism, this is where we're going to have to start. This is where we decided to start. So we have to finish what we have begun. But what's taking place in Afghanistan, after a couple years, things have kind of died down there. But you're starting to see the Taliban regroup and get, their resources together, and they're fighting us hard. And so what we've done, we've sent more resources there. We have increased our troops there because we're starting to fight harder there than we have before. So you're seeing an increased attacks from the Taliban, and the United States is responding to that.
Right. And so, and the violence kind of continues in that area. And we at the end, we will continue tracking and continue monitoring developments as they enter, as they come to the mainstream media. And of course, the show is not here so that you'll stop watching the mainstream media, but it'll kind of supplement and get your interest, and so you can get a deeper understanding about what's going on. We know these issues will continue to arise, and that's why we're kind of here for you. Our Chief Political Analyst is here to break this thing down, so Jane can understand it.
Yes.
And what I want to take this moment to do and say is write into us, send us emails, send us tweets, send us Facebook messages. What other issues do you want us to talk about, whether it be political or otherwise, on In Depth, this show, where we break down issues, or across the spectrum. So thank you so much for watching. Please continue to watch and support. Thank you so much. My Chief Political Analyst is here for one more episode. Stay tuned for episode 3, where we take a whirlwind tour around the world. Whoosh. And just kind of whoosh. Go across the world and tackle on some other issues that are still breaking and continuing to develop as we go along. You've been watching The End. I'm James Wright.